couple of other life performance tips of how you can sustain consistency while you're traveling or particularly busy. Number one, these small incremental choices can compound into greater performance. So, number one, really anchor in your routines. Create little mini routines when you travel or busy periods. That might be as simple as morning activation, maybe a little bit of hydration habits, making sure that you don't lose touch of those early morning hydration components, etc. Number two, really make sure you plan ahead. Pack your workout essentials for you guys that are athletes, getting your athletic gear in there, ensuring you bring resistance bands if you're not going to have access to a strength room or a gymnasium. Identify nearby gyms that you can, or maybe places that you might get to run, so that you can plan ahead and it reduces your cognitive load when you're actually away on holiday. And then leverage travel as an opportunity. Use it as a time for actually deeper rejuvenation. Remember, I'm labeled the recovery coach, something that I proudly carry around still all those years later. And so use this as a holiday to actually lean into that pillar rather than thinking about driving forward. It's just a good perspective to look through. So that's part one. That's really the mindset piece. What are we actually trying to do here? Let's now move to part two, which is, I think, one of the catalysts of giving you control, clarity of expectations, and really ensure that you can juggle all of the competing demands that actually, ironically, do come with a holiday. Planning is critical, and it's going to set you free a little bit, because really what we want to do is a prioritization exercise. Now, you probably know all about my passion of organizational effectiveness. A purple patch, the habit that we like to build in is what we label the Sunday special, which on a regular week is simply every Sunday putting aside 20 to 30 minutes to organize all of the components of life. You look at your life commitments that you have, that might include going to the dentist or coaching Johnny's tennis team or whatever it might be. You also then go through your commitments and your focus for work. What are you looking to accomplish? What can wait till the next week? What are the important meetings that you might have, etc.? And then you go through a process with all of that. The leftover time, you're integrating the important habits that you have. So sleep, hydration, meal planning, etc. And an optimization challenge around your exercise or your training. What are you going to do for your key sessions? When are they going to be relative to the other demands in life? So that you have a semblance of clarity, of focus, your priorities you're going to get done, and you feel under control. So that's a really important component. And this was critical for our professional athletes that we coached, even though it's a very simple routine, because it got them to understand when they had to show up. And it also helped them be organized with all of the other components in life. And every single C-suite executive that I work with leverages this tool, and it's incredibly accessible and simple. So there's no reason that you shouldn't do so too. But before you go away on any holidays, I think that that Sunday special, or whatever planning tool that you use for organizational effectiveness, this is your most important week to do it. And so often I see a lot of folks charging into the holidays and just boom, getting away and letting it all collapse. They actually move into just chaos. And I think that you can get a lot done with a Sunday special before you go on your holiday. And think about what that looks like. It's a little bit different than the regular weeks of the Sunday special, because the first thing that you want to build in is all of the components of life. So you want to block out on your calendar moments and time that you're going to spend a ton of time on family, friends, free time, resting and downtime, etc. Sleep even, you're putting in there. So all of those really healthy things that you're going to do, connect with other people, go and be a little bit free, laze around and watch Thanksgiving Day football if you want to do that, whatever it might be. But really block that in. And it doesn't need to be overly type A and anal. You're not saying from 10 a.m. until 10:30 p.m. I am going to rest and then I am going to go to the bathroom. It's not like that. But it's at least really blocking in these times so you can get a landscape of it's a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to do that's really going to fill my soul, that's going to help me connect with others, that's going to enable me to have some downtime. And that's really important. Then you can go through and think about what, if anything, do I need to get done or maintain from a work standpoint? We live in a culture where many, many people, I understand, have to continue with some form of work over the course of the holidays. And that's a very strict prioritization exercise because your mission cannot be, I'm just going to maintain status quo, a regular week of work while I'm traveling away to wherever you're doing or while I'm enjoying Thanksgiving. You have to go through an objective, and I would say almost savage filtering process to say, these are the non negotiable commitments that I have to do while I travel. And so for me, for example, I have to and I want to continue to do some of my training programs for the athletes that I coach individually. And I need to ensure that I'm tracking some non negotiable commitments around support to ensure that our athletes are well supported with all of their questions. But I don't need to do aspects of team planning or product design or content development while I'm away on holiday. I can put that aside. And so it reduces my overall work to a minimal, almost viable product, if you want to call it that, a minimal amount of work that I can do. And you want to plan when you're going to do that. You can't do it all, but plan it and be savage in your prioritization. The best thing that you can do as well is align with any important constituents in your life. For me, it would be Kelly, my wife, and say, hey, this is a block that I'm going to go and do just 2 hours of work. And maybe on the Monday and the Wednesday and the Thursday, I'm going to have 2 hours each day. It's going to be then, and we can build the rest of the holiday time around that. That gives us all clarity. There's no tension because it's all anchored in communication, and I get to go and do the work as necessary. So that's really liberating and that's helpful. And then you get to, with the time left over, remember you've got rest, unstructured time, family time, and friends time, those blocks of work that you might have to do. Then what you get to do is integrate blocks of exercise or training as you can. And remember, the mission isn't to maintain on your exercise and training the same type of training program that you would do on a regular week. For most people, it's suitably radically less. Yeah, you got an optimization challenge. Now, on the flip side, you might be one of those people that's got greatly more capacity to train because you're not hanging out with family and friends and you're not working as much. And so in that case, I do just want to give you a tip of the hat. Go and have fun. Go at it. But be really honest and smart with yourself. If you are one of the folks that is like the majority, then you're going to likely have a limited training capacity. And put that in and plan it in a really honest and pragmatic way. You're going to do radically less. It might be less specific, and you should be fine with it. Remember, stopping regression is a really important progression when you're in your holidays. That's one of our driving mindsets. And so the Sunday special or whatever planning tool that you might use, absolutely critical for you when it comes to holidays. And then there is a second Sunday special that can actually give you a sense of control and a reduction of anxiety. And that's on what we might call re-entry. It is your next most important planning tool. When you come back and maybe you arrive back from travel on holidays and it's on a Saturday and suddenly you've got Sunday to prep back into work on Monday, that Sunday special is a really important component because the natural tendency that we all have, because we have stepped away from regular training and regular responsibilities at work and life, is goodness me, I need to catch up. I've just got a host of things that I need to get done. But there is a really important component that you need to do. Let's talk about training first. And what we're looking to do with both work reentry and training reentry is reduce the angst and reduce the blizzard. We can't get anywhere faster on this. And so with training, rather than coming back and just bam, the train is leaving the station, instead, you want to actually ramp into things. So I typically, on a re-entry back after holidays, tend to have 1, 2, or 3 days of easier endurance work, looking to get back into rhythm. Now, I'm doing it for time-starved athletes, especially because it tends to be a very busy time getting kids back into schedule with school and sports and everything else, if you're at that age, and also a re-entry to work. So you've got amplified stress in other areas. So I tend to put in, as a coach, 2 to 3 days of easier ramping work. But that's going to help you regardless, even if you're not time-starved on the other side of things. Ramping back in is really good. And then you build on into the third or fourth day when you hit full 4 gas cylinders and you go back into very strong work. Third or fourth day back in. That reduces, and you don't need to worry about playing catch up. Alrighty, just in the same way as someone's sick, you don't suddenly have to take all of that work that you had planned and you got sick and cram it into a double week the next week. You don't do it. You just move on. And so we just progress back in and get back into a regular, double underlined, regular training routine, not a catch up routine. And I acknowledge this takes a little bit of bravery for you, but I think it's very, very important. Don't play catch up, build back in. From a work standpoint, you also, in that re-entry Sunday special or whatever planning tool you use, you also have the same mindset. In the first 72 hours, you don't want to try and get everything done that you missed or you decided to put off in your holiday time. Instead, think about what are the most important things that I can do to set myself up for a great next 10 days of work productivity. So that first day, beyond the Sunday special, might be about re-entry to connecting with your team or your clients, doing some essential planning and communication side of stuff, and then the key priorities that are really important. But I tend to try and put off really important projects and any big picture planning and long-term commitments well beyond into the third or fourth day back into re-entry at work. And so use, just like we do with an endurance athlete, use the first 72 hours, the first 2 to 3 days, ramping back in. And you're going to get back into rhythm. You're going to be in a better place. You're going to remove some of the pile of work that feels like manure, reduce that manure down so you can see over the top, and then get back into the longer term projects then. Giving yourself that little bit of a ramp, a little bit of a runway into it is going to help you incredibly from a stress component and a control component. And so just like athletes, same way going back to work, it's almost the same thing. Ready? Really, really important. And so really around planning, I can't overstate this. Planning before you go with that Sunday special and a re-entry Sunday special, it's going to help so much as long as you're driven by the mindset that we talked about.